Welcome, everybody, and I'm so glad to have you here for today's tagTwenty workshop from Boss to Coach. My name is Tracy Pager from tagLeaders, and we're thrilled to have you here with us today. And I want to pause and give a huge shout out to Cindy Thompson from Payroll Vault for partnering with us today to make this session possible. Thank you so much. And in the next 20 minutes, we're going to cover a few practical coaching tools to help you stop doing it all yourself and start empowering your team to step up. For today, I've muted everyone on the call and disabled the cameras, and I am recording today's workshop. As we finish, I'll go ahead and take all those controls off so we can engage. Thank you so much again for being here. Today's workshop is going to be about boosting team performance, engaging with your team in decision-making, and witnessing increased motivation. So my business partner's name is Gina Goolsby, and my name is Tracy Pager, and we are both certified professional coaches with ICF. We're experienced facilitators and co-founders of tagLeaders. And we believe that leadership isn't just about tools and techniques, it's really about people. And our programs are intentionally designed to grow people, not just skill sets, because better leaders build better workplaces. We partner with organizations of all sizes to help managers increase their team members' self-awareness, to lead with more confidence, and create more connected, high-performing teams. There are a few different ways that we work with organizations. We partner with HR leaders to bring leadership assessments to teams. We also do interactive workshops. And one of our exciting programs is called skill-based coaching, which is a mixture of training and coaching, where we'll meet with an individual 3 times to really dive into one topic. That may be something like giving and receiving feedback, or that may be like dynamic communication. So those are a couple of different ways that organizations can work with us. My hope for you today is to learn some applicable tools so that you can start coaching your colleagues and team members immediately. In addition, I hope that this presentation helps you think about how tagLeaders can partner with you or with your team. At the end of today's workshop, there'll be a QR code, and it's a great way to schedule time with myself or Gina, and we can get to know you a little bit better and see if there's an opportunity for us to work together. So let's dive right in, right? Before we go further, this is what I wanted to talk about, the benefits of coaching. This is comparing directive style leadership with a coaching style of leadership. And I chose these two because I see them often with my clients. A directive is almost kind of a fallback for a lot of people. And when they realize it's not working as well as they had hoped, we lead into a coaching style of leadership. So I wanted to break it down a little bit about what are some characteristics of each of these leadership styles so you can start to think about what's showing up for you. So in a directive style leadership, it can be wonderful in a lot of ways. It's going to provide high clarity and high structure. It also helps with quick decision-making. So in a crunch, directive leadership is actually a great tool. Where I see the directive style of leadership break down is with autonomy and engagement. I see this with my clients that either they're feeling this from their manager or they're doing it to their team, where they decrease that trust. They decrease the ownership by telling people what to do or how to do it. Now, this may be valuable when a new member is just joining the team, but as they start to get more acquainted with the material and the workflow, we want to step into something different. I've also seen directive leadership style tend to strain relationships over time. So it can come across controlling, and it's going to erode trust and collaboration. And we've seen it decrease open communication. Oftentimes in a directive style of leadership, we have a hierarchical scenario going on. We've got someone with a lot of power and someone with less power, and it's very much focused downward in terms of what to do and how to do it. It's been said that directive leadership can create communication barriers with teams. The emphasis on top-down decision-making may discourage open dialogue, leading to lack of candid feedback and hindering team cohesion. And so what I want you to take away from that is directive style leadership can be valuable in a high stakes, quick decision-making scenario. It's not great for building a team. And so when we think about building individuals and building teams, we think about coaching. Research by the Development Dimensions International, DDI, indicate that companies with strong coaching cultures are 1.5 times more likely to rank in the top 10 for financial performance. So studies are showing that coaching cultures in organizations leads to better performance, better business outcomes. And so when we're coaching our colleagues, people start to take more ownership because we move from need to, have to, should to, which are oftentimes ranked with low motivation, into I get to, I choose to, I want to, which are oftentimes recognized with high motivation. So we're engaging that ownership. Critical thinking increases when we start coaching our colleagues because they're starting to think for themselves. They're not just waiting for orders. I hear my people leaders all the time say, I would like my team to be more proactive. And so if we want them to be more proactive, we have to start to build those critical thinking skills. With those critical thinking skills becomes better decisions that are being made. And ultimately, it's going to reduce your stress as well as your colleagues' stress. Because it's not just about playing nice in the sandbox with coaching. It's really about getting better results and avoiding burnout for the manager or the people leader. What I've seen is people leaders who take it all on for themselves in that directive style of leadership feel like they're on an island by themselves. And in the coaching spirit, we all have a hand in the stake. And so we are thinking about how we can avoid burnout by shifting into this coaching modality. So let's talk about how do we shift from a directive style of leadership into a coaching style of leadership. So you'll see there on the left-hand side, it's very clear. It's telling, solving, and doing. And again, there's a time and place for that. But when we want to build our people, it's maybe something that's going to be counterproductive. Instead, we want to think about asking, guiding, and empowering. Again, it's asking, guiding, and empowering. And so what I want you to take away from this slide is a self-awareness to think, oh my gosh, am I telling? Am I solving? Am I doing? Maybe take a note of that. And so you can start to become more self-aware if that's your MO and decide if it's the right place or if it's the right time. There's nothing wrong with the directive style of leadership. We just need to know when to deploy it and when not to deploy it. I always think about our strengths like a dial, right? Like a old-fashioned volume dial for the radio. We know when to turn up that volume or we know when to turn it down. So when we're shifting into this coaching style of leadership, these are some mindsets that you may want to think about shifting out of and into. So a directive style of leadership may sound like I'm the expert. And a coaching style may sound like I'm a thinking partner. And so when we're starting to think as a partner, we're building that trust, we're building that rapport, we're figuring things out in tandem rather than just instructing. Another way to think about the directive style of leadership is it may sound like they need me to tell them what to do. So we all may have said this from time to time. They're waiting for me to tell them what to do. And so we may want to shift into they'll grow more if they figure it out. That's not to say we're going to just, drop the reins and let them be on their own, but we're going to grow more when we're uncomfortable. So coaching requires deep and active listening, which we'll get into in just a moment. But managers who resist the urge to jump in with the answers are going to get more in the long term. So we're avoiding the short-term kind of quick answer, and we're going to let things kind of stir and bubble and see if people can figure it out. And we're going to be coaching and mentoring them along the way. And one more example to shift from boss to coach is thinking about compliance into commitment and capability. So are they in line versus are they committed and are they capable? When I'm coaching my clients, we want to approach them stepping into the coaching role with a hopeful attitude, right? This idea that people can grow, people can change, people can be more capable if we allow them the space and the time and the tools to grow and to learn. And so for my clients, this may look like pouring a cup of tea and sitting back and listening. It may look like some self-leadership skills to zip that lip and prepare for the conversation, thinking about potential questions to ask to engage the mentor or the colleague we're working with. So let's get into our first tip for today. All right, tip number 1, ask, don't tell. So it's a simple and powerful tool. Can I ask a great question rather than telling the answer? Here are my 4 go-to great coaching questions that I use day in, day out. So this is you're getting a little sneak peek into how I coach my clients here. So in between our sessions, there's a lot of movement that happens. In fact, there's more growth and movement in between our sessions than during our sessions. And when we meet again, my first question I always ask is, what's gone well since the last time we spoke? And so if you're a people leader on the call, you can deploy this right away. You want to get the high level of things that have gone well for that person since the last time you spoke with them. Once we've kind of set the stage of things that have gone well, don't worry, we're not ignoring things that haven't gone well, but we want to start in this optimistic, positive place. Once that energy is high, then we start to build that confidence muscle. The next question I love to ask is, what specifically did you do to make that happen? And that's so valuable. It's not just circumstance what's happened, but what did you specifically do to make a few of those things go well? So now we're starting to really understand that level deeper around how clear are they around their strengths. And so as the coach, you're listening for strengths you can pull out and highlight for them if they're not aware. My next coaching question is, what do you think is the next best step? Right? So I could tell them if I was the expert in their field. I'm often not. And that's actually when a coach can show up the strongest, when they don't know how to solve the problem. But my people leaders on the call today are probably the expert in their field. And so it's going to be a little bit harder not to jump in and give the answer. But sit back, drink a cup of water or a cup of tea, and sit back and listen to people talk about what the next step may be. Now, you can course correct, you can give feedback, of course. It doesn't mean you're silent, but you're allowing that person to speak about 60% to 70% of the time in a coaching relationship, rather than you doing the talking. My final question that I think would be really valuable for you is, what do you want to accomplish between now and the next time we meet? I'm sure you're doing something along these lines to create accountability, but I want the other person to tell me what they're going to accomplish and how they're going to accomplish it, versus the coach or the manager telling somebody else what they're going to accomplish. And so this typically looks like a SMART goal, which stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. And you can really work with your colleagues on developing SMART goals. It's probably 2 or 3 in between the time that you're meeting with them. So take a snapshot of this. These are great questions to start infusing into your conversations if you're interested to step into this coach role. In general, these are big open-ended questions. What or how? Now, if you've asked a question that is a closed-ended question, you'll know quickly because it's a one-word answer. No problem. Pause, rephrase that question so you get a longer, more elaborate answer. All right, my top tip number 2 is to let silence really do the heavy lifting here. Right? We really want to think about how we can be silent and let our questions really do the speaking for them. So we're calling this active listening today. And here are 4 steps for you to become a better active listener. Generally, people think they're pretty good at it until we really break it down. And oftentimes there's a few steps that are missing. And I'd like to share with you for our top tip number 2 for today. So we want to ask that big question, and feel free to take one of the 4 I've given you already. We ask the big question, we pause, we don't talk, we let there be silence, and that's okay. It's uncomfortable at first, and then it's actually rewarding because it means you've asked a big enough question for someone to pause and go, I hadn't thought about it that way. Or, geez, I'm not quite sure. Let me think that through. That means we're on the right track to getting to someone thinking about their issues or problems in a new way. And then we want to listen. And there's 3 ways that we want to listen. We want to listen for what's verbally being said. We want to listen for their physical body language. And then we want to listen for what's not being said. What are they omitting? You feel like there's something else that's not being said. So you really have to kind of turn on our spidey sense here. What's verbally being said, what's physically being said, and then what's not being said. Step 3 and step 4 are the pieces that oftentimes get missed. Step 4 is we want to acknowledge what was said and validate why they said it. This may sound like, I understand that you had some success with Y, and it makes sense because your strengths in dynamic communication are visible, right? So we're acknowledging what they've said and why they've said it. Before I move on, I skipped past number 2, which is waste. Why am I still talking? That's a great acronym when you're stepping into the coach role and kind of think to yourself, oh my gosh, why am I still talking? Zip your lips and let somebody else finish that sentence for you. All right, so as we start to wrap things up today, I truly believe that the coaching leadership model tends to help you avoid burnout, because the leaders that are coaching their colleagues are leading smarter and not harder. Here's a few different things I want you to be thinking about here. For the employees you're coaching, it's going to build their confidence and their competence. It's going to increase their autonomy. It's going to increase their proactivity. You're going to be helping them define and clarify their goals and priorities, which allows them to take more action. And stepping as a thought partner helps to create that psychological safety that I think we're all aiming for. And for my people leaders on the call, stepping in as a coach helps you sit back and not feel like you have to have all the answers to everything. I hear this a lot, that people feel like they have to know all the answers, and you don't. You can rely on your team members to help them figure that out. We're distributing responsibility, we're strengthening relationships, and oftentimes those relationships, the impact or the outcome is retention. And so think about this as truly as a retention tool. It helps to protect your energy and your bandwidth. So coaching isn't always the easiest approach, but it's definitely a valuable approach to get more out of your colleagues. And so some things to watch out for as we wrap up today is jumping in too quickly. If you jump in too quickly to tell, solve, or do, pause and just take note of it and see if there's another way to approach it. When we're giving advice, instead of asking questions, know when the right time and the right person is for that advice giving versus would it be valuable to ask those bigger questions. And then the third piece I want you to walk away with is thinking you don't have the time to coach. I hear this a lot, that things need to move faster. And coaching actually saves time in the long run. There's an upfront investment, but then there is a long-term gain from stepping into the coaching role. So here are a few different ways that companies like to work with us. Some great entry points are assessments. And so there's a few assessments that we offer, such as DISC, Clifton Strengths, Energy Leadership Index, and it's a 360 tool called Profiler. We've noticed that the one and dones don't always work well. So we like to follow up with assessment debriefs and following up with some skill-based workshops, such as giving and receiving feedback, critical thinking, increasing performance, just to name a few. So I hope you've enjoyed today's workshop. It's a quick power session, and I hope you found it valuable. I'd love to know your feedback. You'll see the QR code there at the bottom, and please feel free to schedule time with myself, and we can talk more about how leadership development may work well for your team. And before we jump off, again, a huge thank you to Cindy Thompson at Payroll Vault for partnering with us to make this session possible. So one of the things we like to say at tagLeaders is tag you're in, so you can pass this around to your community to share. I'll be following up with everybody with a recording. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll be taking everybody off mute if you have any questions.